Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'll be discussing on the concept that is the notion of international crimes. So you see that like what are called as international crimes. So I have already discussed in the last classes about the international criminal law, about the law relating to crime against humanity. Now see the main question, the main caption of Unit 1 is your notion of international crimes. So, what is the meaning of international crimes? The term international crime is a collective term, okay, and it is for certainly serious violations of international law, just as the genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, torture, and enforced disappearances. Okay, other heinous crimes like slavery, piracy, and aircraft hijacking are not considered to be international crimes, despite their having an international component. So you'll see that international crimes, like the very, like if you say what will be termed as international crimes, it will be like the genocide, the war crimes, the crime against humanity, torture, and enforced disappearances prominent. Okay, here you can see in the slide 2 that international crimes may refer to crime against international law because you see this international criminal law is also a part of public international law. So any kind of a crime which is against the international law will also fall under the notion of international crimes. Then crime against humanity, crime against peace, war crimes, international criminal law, or it may refer also to the transnational crimes and transnational organized crime. So you see, what are the crimes which are included in the term transnational crime? And the 15 biggest areas of transnational crimes are like drug trafficking, arms trafficking, human trafficking, which include everyone, women, children specifically, organ trade, organ trade, wildlife trade, illegal logging, counterfeiting, money laundering, crude oil theft, blood diamond, illegal mining, illegal unreported and unregulated fishing, smuggling of cultural artifacts, cybercrime, illegal gambling. So this all these crimes are included within the purview of international crimes. Now you see there are organ trade also been going on. Like so it constitutes of international crime. Even wildlife trade. For example, you see the one-horned rhino. There have been a lot of poachers of one-horned rhino in the Kaziranga National Park. This is also wildlife trade is going on in that manner, in illegal manner. So you can say this also constitutes the international crime. Moreover, you see there is a definition given of like what do you mean by war crimes, crime against humanity, and also the genocide. I have already discussed about it, but here so you can see in the slide too that what do you mean by war crimes? Like these are the serious violations of a treaty or customary rules of international humanitarian law committed during armed conflict. Okay, and it can be committed during international armed conflict or non-international armed conflict. Okay, and they are not limited to willful killing, wanton destruction of private property, torture, or inhuman treatment only. And moreover, you see, unlike the crime against humanity, which require a widespread or systematic commission of prohibited acts, any serious violation of international humanitarian law is a war crime. Now you see, crime against humanity, as I have already discussed in the last class, what are the things which are included within the crime against humanity? Because crime against humanity is an international crime. So, as defined in the ICC Rome Statute, International Criminal Court Rome Statute, that there are various crimes, that the various acts will amount to crime against humanity. So these are serious human rights violations committed as a part of a widespread or systematic attack against a civilian population. Many courts, including the International Criminal Court, require proof that the conduct formed part of a governmental or organizational policy. And it can be committed in numerous ways, which I have already discussed with you during my last class, that it includes torture, murder, extermination, enslavement, deportation or forcible transfer, sexual violence, persecution, imprisonment, or a severe deprivation of physical liberty in violation of fundamental rules of international law, and the crime of apartheid, that is racism. Genocide, as I have already discussed, it means amounted to mass killing. It takes place when certain acts or acts are committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. It may involve killings causing seriously bodily harm, inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, imposing measures intended to prevent birth, or forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. So these are the examples of, these are the acts which amounts to genocide. Moreover, the term genocide is often misused as a crime is not one which is necessarily defined by numbers, but it is defined by the specific intent of the perpetrators to not only harm the victims but done to destroy the group as such. There are various examples of genocide, even the anti-Semitic riots, which was held in 1984, it amounts to genocide. Moreover, during the time of Hitler's, the Holocaust, during the time of the Hitler's rule in Germany, there was the Holocaust, so it also amounted to genocide, and even Rwandan genocide in 1994. Moreover, torture is also one of the international crime. And torture means what? It is an intentional infliction of severe suffering or pain, whether it may be physical or mental, upon a person in a custody or under the control of the accused. Okay, and under international law, it may be classified as a crime in itself, war crime, an act of genocide, or a crime against humanity. So you see, these are the various notions of international crime. You can see that which the various acts which amounts to international crime. And in the Rome Statute of International Criminal Code and the various articles, very nicely the notions of international crime has been defined. Just as in Article 6, it prominently tells about the genocide. Okay, so Article 6A, it includes genocide by killing. It provides the elements of genocide by killing, and the elements are number one, that is the perpetrator killed two or killed one or more persons. Such persons or persons belong to a particular national, ethnical, religious or religious group, and the perpetrator intended to destroy in whole or in part that national, ethnical, racial or religious group, and the conduct should take place in the context of a manifest pattern or similar conduct directed against that group or was conduct that could itself effect such destruction. So these are the elements of genocide by killing. 6b tells you that genocide by causing serious bodily or mental harm. There are various elements with regard to this. The perpetrator caused seriously bodily or mental harm to one or more persons. Such person or person belongs to a particular national, ethnical, or religious group. The perpetrator intended to destroy in whole or in part that national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such, and the conduct took place in the context of a manifest pattern of similar conduct directed against that group, or was conduct that could itself effect such destruction. So these are the various elements notion of genocide. In Article 6, Clause C, it provides the genocide by deliberately inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about physical destruction. There are various elements in this regard is that the perpetrators inflicted certain conditions of life upon one or more persons. Such person or persons belong to a particular national, ethnical, racial or religious group, and the perpetrators intended to destroy in whole or part that national, ethnical or religious group as such, and the conditions of life were calculated to bring about the physical destruction of that group, in whole or in part, and the conduct should take place in the context of a manifest pattern or similar conduct directed against that group, or worse conduct that could itself effect such destruction. Article 6, Clause D, it tells you about the genocide by imposing measures intended to prevent wars. So you see these elements are the perpetrators impose certain measures upon one or more persons, and such person should belong to a particular national, ethnical, racial, or religious group, and the perpetrator should intend to destroy in whole or part that group, and the measures imposed were intended to prevent the births within that group, and the conduct should take place in the context of a manifest pattern of similar conduct directed against that group or was conduct that could itself affect such destruction. Article 6, Clause E tells about the genocide by forcibly transferring the children. As per this article, the following important elements are: the perpetrator should forcibly transfer one or more person, and that very person should belong to a particular national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. The perpetrator should intend to destroy in whole or in part that national, ethnic, racial, or religious group herself, and the transfer was that from one group to another group. And the person or persons who are under the age should be age of 18 years. And the perpetrator should know that the person under the age of 18 years and the conduct took place in the context of a manifest pattern of similar conduct directed against that group or worse conduct that could itself affect such destruction. Now you see, Article 6 specifically tells you only about the genocide. Just as 6A tells you about genocide by killing, B. Genocide by causing serious bodily or mental harm, C. Genocide by deliberately inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about physical destruction, D. Genocide by making imposing measures intended to prevent wars, and E. Genocide by forcibly transferring children. So Article 6 specifically tells about the genocide, which is one of the international crime. Secondly, you see crime against humanity. Article 7 provides crime against humanity. I have discussed in detail in the previous class regarding the crime against humanity. The elements as per clause A is that crime of against humanity or murder. A perpetrator should kill one or more persons, and the conduct should be committed as part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against the civilian population. And the perpetrator should know that the conduct was part or intended the conduct to be part of a widespread or systematic attack against the civilian population. So that was crime against humanity of murder. Article 7, Clause 1, Clause B. It provides crime against humanity of extermination. The previous class I have explained you what is the meaning of extermination. And these are the following important elements are: the perpetrator should kill one or more person, including by inflicting conditions of life calculated to bring about the destruction of part of a population. The conduct constituted or took place as a part of a mass killing of members of a civilian population, and the conduct should have committed as a part of widespread or systematic attack directed against the civilian population, and the perpetrator knew that the conduct was a part of or intended the conduct to be a part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against the civilian population. Article 7, Clause 1, Clause C provides the crime against humanity of enslavement. Now, as per the elements are, the perpetrator should exercise any or all of the powers attaching to the right of ownership over one or more person, such as by purchasing, selling, lending, or bartering such a person or persons, or by imposing on them a similar deprivation of liberty. The conduct should have committed as a part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against the civilian population. The perpetrator should know that the conduct was a part of intended the conduct to be a part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against the civilian population. Now, Article Clause 7, Clause 1, Clause D, it provides crime against humanity of deportation or forcible transfer of population. So, in this regard, these are the following elements of crime. The perpetrator should deport or forcibly transfer without grounds permitted under international law one or more persons to another state law location by expulsion or by other coercive act. And such person should be lawfully present in that area from which they were so deported or transferred. Moreover, the perpetrator should be aware of the factual circumstances that establish the lawfulness of such presence. The conduct should have committed as part of widespread or systematic attack like directed against the civilian population. And the perpetrator should know that the conduct was a part of or intended the conduct to be part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against the civilian population. Article 7, Clause 1E, it provides the crime against humanity of imprisonment or other severe deprivation of physical liberty. The perpetrator in prison should be one or more person or otherwise severely deprived one or more person of physical liberty. The gravity of the conduct should be such that it was in violation of fundamental rules of international law. The perpetrator should be aware of the factual circumstances that establish the gravity of the conduct, and the conduct should be committed as a part of widespread or systematic attack directed against the civilian population. And the perpetrator should know that the conduct was a part of or intended the conduct to be a part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against civilian population. And Article 7, Clause 1, Clause F provides crime against humanity of torture. So you see, these are the following elements that the perpetrator should inflict. So either physical or mental pain or suffering upon one or more person. And such person should be either in the custody or under the control of the perpetrator. And such pain or suffering did not arise only from or are inherent in or incidental to lawful sanctions. And the conduct should be committed as a part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against civilian population. Next, Article 7, Clause 1G, it also provides crime against humanity of rape. So, in this case, the following are the important elements that is, perpetrator invaded the body of a person by conduct resulting in penetration, however slight, of any part of the body of the victim or of the perpetrator with a sexual organ or of the anal or genital opening of the victim with any object or any other part of the body. The invasion was committed by the force or by threat of force of coercion, or such as that may be caused by fear of violence, duress, detention, psychological oppression, or abuse of power against such person or another person, or by taking advantage of a coercive environment, or the invasion was committed against a person incapable of giving genuine consent, and the conduct was committed as a part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against the civilian population. Next, you see that Article 7, Clause 1, Clause G2 provides crime against humanity of sexual slavery. This easily implicates that the perpetrator exercise should be any or all of the powers attaching to the right of ownership over one or more persons, which may be by purchasing, selling, lending, or bartering such a person or persons, or by imposing on them a similar deprivation of liberty. The perpetrator caused such person or persons to engage in one or more acts of a sexual nature. The conduct was committed as a part of a widespread or systematic attack directed against the civilian population. So these are the elements. Moreover, 7.1G 3 provides you that crime against humanity of enforced prostitution, when someone is forced to to be engaged in prostitution, that is also a crime against humanity. Article 7 Clause 1G 4 provides crime against humanity of forced pregnancy. In this regard, these are the following elements that the perpetrator confined one or more women forcibly made pregnant with the intent of affecting the ethnic composition of any population or carrying out other grave violations of international law. And the conduct must be as such to attack or directed against the civilian population. Article 7, Clause 1, Clause G provides you the crime against humanity of enforced sterilization. And in this regard, that the perpetrator deprived one or more persons of biological reproductive capacity, and the conduct was not justified by the medical or hospital treatment of the person or the person concerned, nor carried out with the genuine consent. And this conduct was committed as a part of an attack to the civilian population. 7.1G Clause 6 provides that crime against humanity of sexual violence, that the perpetrator must have committed an act of a sexual nature against one or more persons or caused such person or persons to engage in an act of a sexual nature by force or by threat of force or coercion, such as that caused by fear of violence, duress, detention, psychological oppression, or abuse of power against such person or persons or another person. Okay, or by taking advantage of a coercive environment of such person or person incapacity to give a genuine consent. So you see, there are various, like in the Article 7, there are various crimes which amounts to international crime. Article 7 Clause 1H provides you the crime against humanity of persecution. That means the perpetrator severely deprived, contrary to the international law, one or more person of their fundamental rights. And the perpetrator targeted such person or person by reasons of the identity of a group, or collectively, or targeted the group of collectivity as such. Okay, and the 7 Clause 7 1 I provides you crime against humanity of enforced disappearance of persons. So you see that these are the following elements, like the perpetrator should either have arrested, detained, or abducted one of persons, or refuse to acknowledge the arrest, detention, or abduction or to give information on the fate or whereabouts of such person or person. And that such arrest, detention, or abduction was followed or should be accompanied by a refusal to acknowledge the deprivation of freedom or to give information on the fate or whereabouts of such person or person. So this also amounts to the international crime. Moreover, you see that Article 7, Clause 1, Clause 2, it also provides the crime against humanity of apartheid, that means the racial discrimination, which you can easily see not only among, you can easily recollect the incident of racism, which was during the time in USA, between the whites and the blacks, and even in India also we face a lot of racial discrimination. So Article 7, Clause 1, Clause 3, it speaks about the crime against humanity of apartheid. So, so you see that uh, also in class Article 7, Clause 1K, it provides the crime against humanity of other inhuman acts. There are various other acts which are inhuman in nature and which relates to the international crime. So these are various acts which amounts to international crime. So in the next grade class, I will be discussing about the war crimes and the certain other notion of international crimes. Thank you.